Elena Hart felt her son kick just as Alpha King Dante Romano leaned too close to Bianca Ferretti. The movement beneath Elena's silk gown was sharp enough to steal her breath, yet she kept smiling for the Italian delegation gathered around the war table. Candlelight flashed on crystal glasses, polished silver, and the lipstick stain near Dante's collar, deliberately visible tonight to anyone who looked. Bianca lifted her wineglass and switched to Italian with a laugh. Does your Luna always hover near military business, or is pregnancy making her clingy? One of the visiting generals glanced toward Elena. Can she understand us? Dante looked over his shoulder. His gray eyes touched Elena's face, then dropped to the curve of her 6-month belly. A smirk slowly bent his mouth. She's nothing but a bed toy, Dante said in Italian. Now she's useful because she carries my heir. Bianca laughed softly. The general did too. Elena heard every syllable. She had learned Italian before she ever met Dante, had negotiated supply contracts in it, and had once written battlefield codes in the same language. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her wine. She did not spill it. She did not slap Bianca or demand an explanation. The baby kicked again, and Elena pressed one palm beneath her ribs until the ache passed. Then her gaze lowered to the campaign map spread across the table. Vulture Pass had been marked as a corridor. Elena stared at the ink. One road line curved through terrain that could not exist. She knew because 6 years earlier she had mapped that ridge herself under another name, White Wolf. No one in Valemont knew that secret, not even the man who slept beside her. Dante kept talking to Bianca about troop numbers, winter rations, and departure times. Elena listened while humiliation burned beneath her skin. The insult hurt. The map frightened her more. It could kill thousands. Bianca leaned closer to Dante and murmured something about the War Office last Tuesday. Dante answered with a private smile. Elena had wondered for months why Bianca's scent lingered on his shirts, why meetings ended after midnight, why Dante stopped reaching for her except when asking about the baby. Now 5 months of excuses settled into one truth. He had chosen deceit repeatedly and willingly. Elena set down her glass without a tremor. "Excuse me," she said in English. Dante barely looked up. Bianca smiled as if she had won something. Elena crossed the ballroom slowly, refusing to give either of them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Behind her, Italian laughter resumed. Ahead, the corridor stretched cold. Beneath her hand, her son moved again, strong and alive inside. In the royal bedroom, Elena locked the door. Her face in the mirror looked composed enough to fool anyone except herself. She opened the bedside drawer and removed the silver maternity chain Dante had given her when the healer confirmed their son. A moonstone hung from it, pale as winter. She placed the chain on the desk beside a mate breach notice and sat down. Her hand shook only once when she wrote Dante's name. The bond pulled painfully behind her ribs, as if her wolf understood before her heart did that something had ended. Elena rested both palms over her belly. "You will know your father," she whispered, "but you will never learn that love means accepting betrayal." One tear reached her cheek. She wiped it away. Then Elena pulled a duplicate campaign map from her satchel and flattened it beside the signed notice. Vulture Pass glared up at her in black ink. She traced the false road once, then circled the gorge in red. Dante could betray her, insult her intelligence, even lose the right to stand beside her. But she would not let 10,000 soldiers die for his arrogance again. Can we stop here for just a moment? Not because the story is slowing down. Believe me, things are about to get much more interesting. I simply wanted to tell you something I noticed. According to my channel statistics, 90.8% of the people watching these stories are not subscribed. At first I laughed a little and thought, well, apparently I still have some convincing to do. Maybe you're waiting to see whether the next story is better. Maybe the narration isn't perfect. Or maybe you simply watch on television and never think about pressing that little subscribe button. Whatever the reason, I'm grateful you're here. I'm a single mother with a 10-year-old child, and this is my one small channel. I'm learning, writing, creating, and trying to improve it every day. If these stories have brought you even a few minutes of comfort or entertainment, subscribing would be a beautiful little kindness. And if you subscribe, please leave number 1 in the comments. That way, I can say hello to you in my heart. Now let's continue. Dante found the mate breach notice before sunrise. The paper lay on Elena's desk, beneath the silver maternity chain he had given her 3 months earlier. Her signature sat at the bottom in dark blue ink, clean and steady. He read it twice. Then his jaw hardened. Elena. Elena. She was already awake. She sat beside the window, in a loose gray robe, one hand supporting the underside of her belly, while the other held a cup of ginger tea. Dawn had barely touched the mountains beyond the glass. She looked tired, but not uncertain. Dante lifted the document. What is this? You can read. His eyes sharpened. Don't do that. Do what? Turn one mistake into a public humiliation. Elena stared at him. One mistake. 5 months of Bianca's perfume on his clothes. 5 months of closed-door meetings. 5 months of evenings when he returned after midnight and slid into bed beside his pregnant mate, as if nothing had happened. Her wolf recoiled inside her chest. Elena set down the tea. How long? Dante's expression changed by half a degree. That was enough. How long have you been sleeping with her? Elena. How long? His silence answered first. 5 months, he finally said. The baby shifted hard beneath Elena's ribs. She inhaled carefully. Dante took one step toward her. It wasn't supposed to become this. What was it supposed to become? Nothing. That hurt more than she expected. Not love. Not some impossible second bond. Not even a great political temptation. Nothing. He had risked their marriage for something he considered meaningless. Dante rubbed a hand across his mouth. Bianca understands the pressure around the Italian alliance. She understands what I carry every day. And I don't? You're 6 months pregnant. Elena's gaze went cold. That wasn't my question. I don't want you dragged into military politics while carrying my son. Our son. No. Dante exhaled impatiently. You know what I mean. Yes, Elena said. I'm beginning to. His eyes dropped to her stomach. Instinct softened his face for the first time. He moved closer and reached toward her belly. Elena stepped back. Dante froze. The distance between them was less than 2 feet. It felt larger than the kingdom. That is still my child, he said quietly. Yes. Something in Elena's chest tightened. The mate bond pulled suddenly, viciously, as though invisible claws had hooked beneath her breastbone. Bianca's scent lingered faintly on Dante's collar. Her wolf recognized it. Pain shot down Elena's spine. She gripped the edge of the desk until it passed. Dante noticed. Elena? I'm fine. You're pale. I said I'm fine. He reached for her again. She moved away. You may still be his father, Elena said. You are no longer entitled to me. Dante stared at her as if she had struck him. Then pride returned. You're angry. I am clear. The bond will settle. The betrayal won't. His mouth tightened. You're not leaving Valamont over this. Elena looked at him for several seconds. He still believed this was a marital argument. He had no idea she had spent most of the night studying a map that could bury his army beneath Vulture Pass. No, she said softly. I won't leave over Bianca. Dante seemed almost relieved. Elena turned toward the desk. I'll leave because I no longer trust the man who commands this kingdom. He went still. She did not give him time to answer. Close the door when you go. Elena. She picked up her tea. The conversation was over. Dante remained another moment, anger fighting something less comfortable behind his eyes. Then he left. The door closed harder than necessary. Elena waited until his footsteps disappeared. Only then did she bend forward, palm pressed against her chest. The mate bond burned. Her son kicked again. I know, she whispered. An hour later, Elena entered the small archive adjoining her private study. She carried the duplicate campaign map from the banquet and 3 old military ledgers retrieved before breakfast. Pregnancy made standing too long uncomfortable now, so she sat at the map table and worked slowly. Vulture Pass, troop estimates, supply distance, water access. Something was wrong. The current map showed a narrow road cutting north through the gorge. Elena pulled an older survey from beneath the ledgers. There was no road. There had never been one. A rock slide, 12 years earlier, had sealed that route permanently. Yet Dante's new map presented it as the fastest passage for 10,000 soldiers. Elena compared the symbols along the eastern ridge. Her pulse slowed. 3 small diagonal marks. Most officers would dismiss them as terrain notation. They were not. They belonged to an old battlefield cipher. Her battlefield cipher. White Wolf had used those marks to designate false retreats during the Red Valley campaign 6 years ago. Elena sat completely still. Someone had copied the system, but they had copied it badly. The second mark faced west instead of east. A forgery. Her hand moved toward the locked drawer beneath the table. Inside lay a small silver seal she had not touched since marrying Dante. A white wolf's head, 3 lines beneath it. Elena did not remove it. Not yet. She closed the drawer and studied the falsified marks again. Only 3 people had ever possessed the complete White Wolf cipher. Elena was one. The courier who carried her original battle plans had died 5 years ago. The old cartographer who helped encode them had been buried the winter after Red Valley. Elena slowly placed a hand over her son. For the first time since hearing Dante's betrayal, fear pushed past heartbreak. This was no longer about Bianca. Someone inside Valamont's military command had reached into Elena's buried past and was using her own work to build a trap around the Alpha King. And whoever had done it believed White Wolf was gone. The problem was that only 3 people had ever known the full cipher, and 2 of them were dead. By 8 the next morning, Elena's luggage was already inside the black carriage waiting beneath the eastern portico. There were only 2 cases: clothes, medical supplies, her personal documents. The duplicate Vulture Pass map remained strapped beneath the false bottom of the smaller case, beside the sealed mate breach notice. Elena descended the palace steps slowly, one hand on the railing, the other beneath the curve of her stomach. Marcus Hale waited beside the carriage in his dark beta uniform. "You're certain?" he asked. Elena glanced back at the royal keep. 6 years of memories lived behind those windows. She had chosen curtains for the nursery there, chosen the cradle, chosen the tiny blue blanket Dante had pretended not to care about before spending 20 minutes testing whether the wool was soft enough. Her son shifted beneath her palm. Elena faced the gates again. Yes. Marcus nodded once. He did not offer comfort she had not requested. That was one reason she trusted him. The main gates were already opening when a growl rolled across the courtyard. "Stop." The guards froze. Dante strode down the palace steps without a coat, his shirt open at the throat as though someone had dragged him from a council meeting. Anger sharpened every line of his face. Bianca stood on the upper balcony behind him. Elena noticed her, then stopped caring. Dante planted himself between Elena and the carriage. "You said you weren't leaving over Bianca." "I'm not." "Then explain this." "I filed for Maternal Sanctuary." "You filed a grievance." "I filed both." His eyes flashed gold. "I am Alpha King. You cannot simply remove my heir from Valamont." Marcus stepped forward. "Your Majesty." Dante turned on him. "Stay out of this." "I can't." Marcus removed a folded parchment from inside his coat and broke the blue legal seal. Maternal Sanctuary Law, Article 12. A pregnant mate who submits evidence of mate breach may enter neutral territory until birth or formal review. No alpha authority supersedes maternal protection during that period. Dante's face changed. "You witnessed this?" "I did." "You helped her?" "I witnessed the law." "I witnessed the law." Dante looked back at Elena. For a moment, the Alpha King disappeared. There was only the man who had once slept with his hand spread protectively over her stomach. "Where are you going?" "Ironhaven. That fortress is full of soldiers. So is this palace." "Elena, you brought your mistress into the war council." His jaw tightened. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You do not get to call Ironhaven dangerous after making my own home unsafe." Dante's wolf pushed against his skin. Elena felt the pressure of his alpha aura, but Marcus remained between them, and the guards looked carefully at the ground. Dante could command armies. He could not legally command this. Elena entered the carriage. As Marcus closed the door, Dante called her name. Her fingers tightened around the leather seat. She did not look back. The wheels rolled through the gates. 3 hours later, Valamont's paved road had narrowed into a muddy border track lined with black pine. Rain ticked against the carriage roof. Elena had just adjusted the cushion behind her lower back when Marcus knocked twice from the driver's compartment. Their warning signal. She sat upright. "What?" "Riders." The horses suddenly accelerated. Elena heard hoofbeats behind them. 4, maybe 5. A bolt struck the carriage wall. She flinched as wood splintered beside the window. "Down." Marcus's voice came through the panel. Elena lowered herself awkwardly to the floor, protecting her belly with both arms. Another bolt hit the rear wheel. The carriage lurched. Pain tightened low across her abdomen. Not labor. Stress. She breathed through it. Nora said, "No heroics," Marcus shouted. "I wasn't planning any." Elena reached beneath the seat and pulled a red cord. Outside, a latch snapped. The second luggage carriage traveling behind them broke away at the fork they had passed moments earlier. It carried identical trunks. No documents. No Elena. The pursuing riders split. 3 followed the decoy. 2 stayed with them. Elena closed her eyes briefly, exactly as she had calculated before leaving. Attackers rarely chased a person when they believed the valuable thing was inside luggage. One rider came alongside. Marcus's escort slammed into him before he reached the door. Metal struck metal. A horse screamed. Elena remained on the floor. She hated helplessness, but protecting her son mattered more than pride. Minutes later, the carriage stopped beneath a stone bridge. Marcus opened the door, breathing hard. "We have one alive." Elena stepped down carefully. A masked man lay restrained in the mud, blood running from his temple. His uniform had been stripped of insignia, but not carefully enough. A rectangular patch of darker fabric remained on the shoulder. Royal military issue. Elena's stomach turned. Marcus searched him. No orders. "Boots," Elena said. Marcus looked at her. "Check inside the left boot." Military couriers hid secondary papers there, because prisoners were searched at the belt first. Marcus pulled off the boot. A torn parchment slid into the mud. Only half remained. A route number, a troop designation, and a signature cut through the bottom edge. Elena crouched as far as her pregnancy allowed. Marcus picked it up before she could. His expression hardened. She already knew the handwriting. She had seen it beneath deployment orders for years. General Lucio Varenna, Dante's mentor, the man who had taught him how to hold a sword. Elena straightened slowly. Ironhaven's towers were less than an hour away. Now she knew she was not merely leaving a broken marriage. Someone inside Dante's highest command wanted what she carried badly enough to attack a pregnant Luna under sanctuary protection. Marcus folded the fragment carefully. "This changes everything." Elena looked toward the road ahead. "No." Her hand settled over her son. "It confirms it." The order in the attacker's boot carried the signature of the one man Dante trusted more than anyone alive. General Lucio Varenna. Ironhaven's citadel rose from the mountain, like something carved to survive the end of the world. By the time Elena's carriage passed beneath its iron gates, rain had soaked the stone walls nearly black. Soldiers watched from the battlements, while Marcus presented the sanctuary order to the guards below. Elena barely noticed them. The cramping had returned. It tightened low across her abdomen, held for several seconds, then eased. She kept one hand beneath her belly until the carriage stopped. A gray-haired woman in a healer's coat was already waiting. "Elena Hart?" "Yes. I'm Dr. Nora Bell, and before you tell me you're fine, don't." Elena almost smiled. Nora took one look at her face. Inside. Now, 20 minutes later, Elena lay on a narrow examination bed, with her gown pushed above the curve of her stomach. Nora moved a small silver listening disc across her skin. Elena stared at the ceiling. Then the room filled with a rapid, steady rhythm. Her son's heartbeat. Strong. Alive. Elena closed her eyes. The breath she had been holding broke. One tear slipped toward her temple. Then another. She did not sob. She simply lay there while the heartbeat filled the room and all the fear she had refused to feel on the border road finally found somewhere to go. Nora lowered the device. "He's doing well." Elena swallowed. "And the cramping?" "Stress. Exhaustion. You've been sitting in a shaking carriage after someone shot bolts at it." "I noticed." Nora gave her a flat look. "No bleeding. No sign of early labor. But your blood pressure is higher than I like. I have work to do. You have a child to keep inside you for another 3 months." Elena met her eyes. Nora softened slightly. "Strength is not the same thing as pretending your body has no limits." Elena looked down at her belly. "I know. Good. Because if you collapse over a map table, I will personally drag you back here." By noon, Elena was standing before 5 members of Ironhaven's defensive council. Marcus remained near the door. Commander Raphael Moreau stood at the far end of the stone chamber, arms crossed over his dark uniform. He had said nothing since Elena entered. Councillor Hayes tapped the torn order recovered from the attacker. "A partial signature proves very little. It proves royal military personnel attacked a woman under sanctuary protection," Marcus said. "It suggests that," Hayes corrected. "It does not prove General Varenna ordered it." Elena placed the duplicate Vulture Pass map on the table. Then forget the attack. Several heads turned. She pointed to the northern corridor. Look here. Hayes frowned. A military road. No, a grave. Raphael's gaze sharpened. Elena continued. The road marked through Vulture Pass was sealed by a rock slide 12 years ago. 10,000 soldiers cannot move through that gorge. Not with supply wagons, not with artillery, not before winter. Another counselor leaned forward. Our maps show the same road. Then your maps were copied from the same false source. Hayes studied her. You expect Ironhaven to confront Valamont because its Luna says a line on a map is wrong? No. Elena folded her hands over her stomach. I expect you to check. That answer bought her access to the archives. The map room occupied the oldest tower in Ironhaven. Dust hung in the shafts of afternoon light. Shelves groaned beneath campaign records, dating back generations. Raphael entered behind Elena, carrying 3 ledgers. Hayes thinks you're trying to use Ironhaven against your husband. I'm trying to stop soldiers from dying. Even his soldiers? Elena turned. They have wives, children, parents. They didn't sleep with Bianca. Something almost amused moved through Raphael's expression. He laid the ledgers open. If you're right about Vulture Pass, prove the logistics fail too. Elena lowered herself carefully into a chair. For the next 20 minutes, she worked without speaking. Daily grain consumption, horse feed, medical wagons, distance between depots, winter travel speed. Her finger stopped on the eastern supply line. This depot is wrong. Raphael leaned closer. How? It's listed as holding 9 days of grain. It does. No. You're calculating normal consumption. She turned the ledger toward him. You added 400 mounted troops last month. Their horses consume more than your soldiers. Raphael's expression changed. Elena took a pencil. At current distribution, the eastern depot runs dry in 6 days. Impossible. Count it. He did. Once, then again. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Raphael looked at her differently. Not as Dante Romano's pregnant Luna. Not as a political problem. As something he had seen before. He crossed to a locked cabinet and removed a weathered envelope. This calculation method, he said slowly. I've seen it once. Elena's hand went still. Raphael placed the letter in front of her. The paper was 6 years old. Across the bottom were 3 diagonal marks. Hair marks. Red Valley. White Wolf. Elena did not touch the page. Raphael watched her face. I was a captain then, he said. 300 men were trapped south of Red Valley. Someone corrected our supply route before Lucio's staff even realized we were starving. Elena felt her son move beneath her palm. Raphael tapped the signature at the bottom. A white wolf, drawn in faded ink. Whoever wrote this saved my unit. Elena raised her eyes to his. For the first time since arriving at Ironhaven, someone was not asking whether she deserved protection. He was asking who she really was. Raphael pushed the 6-year-old letter toward her and said, Tell me why White Wolf calculates exactly like you do. Raphael did not ask the question twice. Elena looked at the 6-year-old letter between them. At the faded white wolf drawn beneath calculations, she still remembered writing by candlelight. Her son shifted beneath her palm. I stopped using that name a long time ago. Raphael's eyes stayed on her face. That isn't a denial. No. He slowly pulled out the chair across from her. You were White Wolf. Elena hated how exposed the words made her feel. Not because she was ashamed. Because White Wolf belonged to a life before Dante, before the royal keep, before she convinced herself that peace required becoming smaller. I sent strategies, she said. I never commanded soldiers. Your strategies kept soldiers alive. That distinction mattered to the men who refused women access to High War Council. Raphael's jaw tightened. Elena folded the old letter. Now you know. I suspected. Since when? Since you corrected my eastern depot in under 3 minutes. That calculation was obvious. To you. A trace of dry amusement entered his voice. Raphael rose and crossed toward another map table. He unrolled a fresh battlefield chart. No names. No dates. No history. Elena frowned. You're testing me. I'm deciding whether Ironhaven risks military neutrality for your claim. That was honest enough to earn her attention. She joined him. The map showed 2 valleys divided by a narrow river, 4 supply stations, and a fortified hill. Raphael tapped the western flank. Enemy force here. You have 3,000 infantry, 600 mounted troops, winter conditions, limited grain. How do you take the hill? Elena studied it. I don't. His eyebrow lifted. The hill is the objective. The hill is bait. Raphael said nothing. She pointed toward the river. The eastern bank is marked shallow, but the contour lines say otherwise. Whoever gave me this map wants me to cross there. And I send a visible cavalry unit east, so the enemy reinforces the crossing. Her finger moves south. Then infantry takes this ridge during the night. There's no road. There doesn't need to be. Infantry can move where wagons can't. And food? We leave half the supply train behind. Raphael started. That gives you 2 days. I only need 1. Elena moved a marker across the ridge. The enemy abandons the hill when they realize their western retreat is cut off. I don't take the position. She met his gaze. I make them leave it. For several seconds, Raphael said nothing. Then he gathered the markers. That was the Red Hollow exercise. Never heard of it. It took our senior commanders 4 hours to solve. Elena returned to her chair. They were trying to win the wrong battle. Raphael looked at her differently now. Not with surprise. Recognition. You have sanctuary. Elena's shoulders loosened slightly. I already had sanctuary under law. On paper. His expression hardened. Now you have Ironhaven. That distinction mattered. Raphael returned the old White Wolf letter to its envelope. I won't expose your identity without permission. Thank you. But if Vulture Pass is what you think it is, hiding forever may stop being an option. Elena looked toward the rain streaking the tower windows. I know. 300 miles south, Dante tore Marcus Hale's duplicate sanctuary notice in half. The beta watched the pieces fall onto the council table. That changes nothing, Marcus said. She is carrying my son, and she is protected by law. I know the damned law. Then stop behaving as if anger rewrites it. Dante's eyes flashed. Marcus did not move. Around them, the Royal War Council had fallen unusually quiet. Bianca sat 2 chairs away, dressed in crimson. General Lucio stood at the campaign map. Dante looked toward him. When do we march? 4 days. Dante frowned. I approved 8. Conditions changed. What conditions? Lucio pointed toward Vulture Pass. Scouts report the southern armies are repositioning. If we move now, we control the gorge before they do. Bianca leaned forward. Lucio is right. Delay makes us look weak. Dante's attention shifted toward her. For the first time, her certainty irritated him. Elena would have questioned the supply distance. She always questioned numbers everyone else accepted. The thought arrived uninvited. Dante pushed it away. 4 days, he said. Lucio nodded. The meeting continued. But Dante noticed Marcus staring at the map. What? Marcus hesitated. Elena circled Vulture Pass before she left. Dante went still. Why? She never told me. Bianca gave a soft sigh. She was angry. She probably wanted you distracted. Marcus turned toward her. Elena has never confused personal anger with military duty. Bianca's mouth tightened. Dante heard it too. The implication. He looked down at the campaign map. 4 days. Not 8. For the first time since Elena's carriage disappeared beyond the gates, unease moved beneath his anger. Back at Ironhaven, Raphael entered the archive just before dusk with a sealed dispatch. His expression had lost all warmth. Elena. She looked up from the supply ledgers. What happened? He placed the message before her. Valamont advanced the deployment schedule. Elena broke the seal. Her eyes moved across the page once. Then again. 4 days. Her hand went automatically to her stomach. Raphael watched her. How bad? Elena looked toward Vulture Pass marked on the wall map. Worse than I thought. She stood carefully. If Lucio moves them on this schedule, the army reaches the gorge before Ironhaven can send a formal challenge. How much time do we have? Elena calculated the distance. The weather. The supply speed. Her pulse accelerated. Until the 4th dawn. Raphael looked at the White Wolf letter still resting nearby. What do you need? Elena reached for a clean map. For the first time in 6 years, she did not hesitate before drawing the White Wolf mark. If they failed to stop the order before the 4th sunrise, Dante would lead 10,000 soldiers straight into the place Lucio had prepared for them to die. The White Wolf cipher looked almost childish when written in fresh ink. 3 angled lines, a broken circle, 1 small mark beneath the eastern ridge. To anyone else, they were symbols. To Elena, They were instructions. She sat at the center table of Ironhaven's map room, while rain battered the narrow windows. 3 dispatches lay open before her, each intercepted from different points along Valamont's eastern supply route. Raphael stood across from her. Same hand? Promise. No. Elena compared the ink. Same system. One dispatch ordered a grain convoy north toward Vulture Pass. Another instructed mounted scouts to abandon the southern road. The third activated a signal fire at Hollow Ridge. Individually, none looked suspicious. Together, they formed a funnel. Elena placed 3 red markers on the map. They're not just trapping Dante's army. Raphael leaned closer. They're starving it first. She nodded. If the grain convoy reaches Hollow Ridge, it disappears before Dante enters the gorge. Raiders? No. Elena traced the route. There's nowhere for raiders to retreat without being seen. Whoever takes the convoy has access to military roads. Raphael's jaw hardened. Lucio, or someone working under his seal. A sharp movement beneath Elena's ribs made her stop. Her son kicked twice. She rested one hand on her belly. Raphael noticed but said nothing until the tension left her face. You need a break. I need the convoy stopped. You can need both. Elena gave him a tired look. You sound like Nora. That may be the most threatening thing anyone has ever said to me. Despite herself, Elena almost smiled. Then, she looked back at the map. Send a messenger to Captain Cole at Eastwatch. Tell him the bridge at Hollow Ridge has been declared unsafe. It hasn't. It will be if he tries crossing it with 40 wagons. Raphael understood. You want him diverted. South through Black Pine Road. That adds 2 hours, and keeps him out of Lucio's funnel. Raphael reached for the dispatch sheet. What authority do I sign under? Elena hesitated. If the order failed, Ironhaven would be accused of interfering with royal military supply. If it succeeded, someone would know White Wolf was moving again. She picked up the small silver seal. For 6 years, she had kept it hidden. Now she pressed it into warm wax. The wolf's head appeared cleanly. Mine. Raphael looked at the mark, then at Hare. He signed beneath it only as witness. By late afternoon, Ironhaven's signal tower received a reply. The convoy had turned south. Elena stood near the map wall while officers moved markers across the board. Eastwatch convoy entering Black Pine Road. A messenger called. 10 minutes later, unmarked riders sighted north of Hollow Ridge. Raphael's expression darkened. They were waiting. Elena felt no satisfaction, only confirmation. Another messenger entered at a run. Contact at Black Pine. Elena's head snapped up. What kind? 4 riders attempted to cut the lead wagons away from the column. Her stomach tightened. Casualties. 1 injured. No dead. Captain Cole held formation. Raphael exhaled. The messenger continued. They captured 1 attacker. Elena's pulse quickened. Alive? Yes. An hour later, the convoy rolled through Ironhaven's lower gate. Mud covered the wagons. 1 horse limped. A young soldier sat against the rear wheel of the lead cart, with blood darkening the sleeve of his uniform. Elena entered the courtyard, with Raphael and Nora close behind. Nora immediately muttered, You are observing, not climbing anything, chasing anything, or personally interrogating armed prisoners. I know. I'm developing trust issues. The wounded soldier tried to stand when Elena approached. She stopped him. Stay seated. He looked embarrassed. My Luna, Elena, is fine. His gaze dropped briefly to her stomach. My wife's 7 months. The words caught Elena somewhere unexpected. She crouched only far enough to meet his eyes comfortably. You got the convoy through, because someone changed our route. He glanced toward the White Wolf seal on the order Raphael still carried. My wife gets to eat with me tonight because of that. Elena swallowed. That was Captain Cole's discipline. No. The soldier shook his head. We were 30 minutes from Hollow Ridge when the new order came. His voice roughened. If we'd kept going, they had men waiting on both sides. Elena looked toward the prisoner being dragged from another wagon. A hood covered his face. Did he say anything? The soldier nodded. Not him. One of the others. Raphael stepped closer. What did you hear? They thought we couldn't understand Italian. Elena went very still. The soldier continued. One shouted that Lady Ferretti would be furious if the wagons reached Ironhaven. Bianca. For 1 heartbeat, Elena heard Dante's laughter from the banquet again. Bed toy. Useful because she carries my heir. But this hurt differently. Bianca had not merely taken another woman's husband. She had known soldiers were being sent toward a trap. Elena straightened. Raphael's face had gone cold. "You're certain of the name? Ferretti?" "Yes, Commander." Elena looked toward the map tower above the courtyard. The evidence was still incomplete. But for the first time, Bianca's shadow reached beyond adultery and into treason, and Elena knew exactly where to start pulling. Bianca had known Vulture Pass was a trap for at least 3 weeks, and she had still watched Dante sign the order. Dante reached Ironhaven before midnight. Rain streamed from his hair and black riding coat as he stood beneath the fortress gate. One hand clenched around a 6-year-old letter carrying the faded mark of a white wolf. The guards did not open the doors. "I am Alpha King of Valamont." Commander Raphael Moreau looked down from the battlement. "And this is neutral territory. My wife is inside. Your separated mate is under Maternal Sanctuary." Dante's jaw tightened. "She is carrying my son." Raphael did not move. "That does not make her your prisoner." The words landed harder than the rain. Dante stared past him toward the stone towers beyond the gate. Somewhere inside, Elena was sleeping in a room he had never seen, under another man's protection, carrying the child whose heartbeat Dante had once listened to with his hand against her stomach. He raised the old letter. "Tell Elena I need to speak with her." Raphael's gaze dropped to the white wolf mark. Something changed in his face. "I'll tell her you came." "That isn't what I said. It's what the law allows." The gates remained closed. Inside Ironhaven, Elena sat beneath a healer's lamp, while Nora tightened a pressure cuff around her arm. "You are done for tonight. I have 3 intercepted orders left. You also have blood pressure I dislike." Elena looked toward the maps spread across the adjoining table. "We're running out of time. Your son does not care about Vulture Pass." Elena's expression softened. "No, but several thousand other sons are marching toward it." Nora exhaled through her nose. 20 minutes. Then bed. Raphael entered before Elena could argue. "Dante is at the gate." Her hands stopped over the documents. The mate bond reacted before she did. A low ache pulled beneath her ribs. "Not longing. Recognition. What does he want?" Raphael placed a weathered letter on the table. Elena saw the white wolf mark immediately. Her own handwriting filled the page. "Red Valley. 6 years ago. Where did he get this?" "Lucio's private archive." Elena's blood cooled. Dante had finally begun looking in the right places. Raphael pulled another document from his coat. "This is worse." The page carried the seal of the Council of 7. Elena read the first paragraph, then the second. Her palm moved instinctively to her stomach. "Royal guardianship. If an Alpha King was declared militarily incapacitated during wartime, the Council could temporarily assume legal authority over an unborn heir." The law was ancient, almost never used. Elena read further. Her name appeared beneath a prepared accusation. Theft of classified military documents. Unauthorized interference with royal deployment. Flight from Valamont with an heir. "They were going to call my sanctuary treason." Raphael nodded. "If Dante loses at Vulture Pass, Lucio moves for no confidence. And Bianca becomes war regent." "Yes." Elena's eyes dropped to the final clause. Her stomach turned. "And if I'm convicted, the council can petition to place the child under royal guardianship after birth." The room seemed to shrink around her. For weeks, Elena had endured humiliation, bond pain, threats, and the collapse of her marriage. None of it had frightened her like this. They wanted her son, not because they loved him, because he was an heir. A piece on a political board. Elena stood too quickly. The room tilted. Raphael caught her elbow. "Easy." She jerked away from instinct more than anger. "I'm fine." "You're not." "I will be." Nora entered from the adjoining room and took one look at Elena's face. "Sit." "Nora." "Now." Elena obeyed. For once, Nora checked her pulse while Raphael remained silent. Elena closed her eyes. She remembered Dante at the banquet. "Now she's useful because she carries my heir." The sentence returned, with a different cruelty. Even Dante had spoken about the baby, as though the child belonged first to the crown. Elena opened her eyes. "They don't get him." Raphael's voice was quiet. "No, they do not get to decide where he lives, who raises him, what he becomes." "No." Elena looked at him. "Help me invoke the 3-witness war statute." Raphael understood immediately. "If we do that, tomorrow's war council becomes mandatory. For everyone." Lucio, Bianca, and Dante. A knock sounded at the door. Marcus entered, soaked from the rain. He's still outside. Elena knew exactly who he meant. Marcus handed her a folded note. Dante's handwriting. One sentence. Was it you? Elena looked again at the White Wolf letter. 6 years ago, Dante had built part of his legend on strategies she wrote, while no one knew her name. 6 days ago, he had called her a bed toy. She folded his note once. Tell him I'll answer tomorrow. Marcus hesitated. That's all? Elena rose carefully. No. She took the 3-witness petition and signed beneath Raphael's name. Tell him to bring Bianca. Raphael added his seal. Marcus added the 3rd witness mark. The statute became active. Outside the fortress, the bells of Ironhaven began ringing through the storm. Once, twice, 3 times. A mandatory Allied War Council. Elena placed a hand over her son and looked toward the closed gates, where Dante waited. He wanted to know whether I was White Wolf. Raphael watched her. What are you going to tell him? Elena picked up the old letter. Nothing tonight. Her voice remained calm. Tomorrow, he can ask me in front of every man who laughed. By sunrise, Dante would learn who White Wolf was, and Elena would learn whether the king who betrayed her would protect his crown, or finally protect the truth. The Allied War Council began at sunrise. Rain still clung to the windows of Ironhaven's command hall when Elena entered with Raphael on one side and Dr. Nora Bell on the other. Every chair was occupied. Dante stood near the central map table in black military uniform. Bianca sat behind him, pale but composed. General Lucio Varenna remained beside the commanders as if nothing had changed. Then Dante saw Elena. His eyes dropped immediately to the curve of her 6.5-month belly. The mate bond pulled painfully between them. Elena felt it. She kept walking. Lucio gave a dismissive laugh and turned toward one of the Italian officers. This is absurd, he said in Italian. Send the pregnant bed toy home before she embarrasses the crown. Bianca's mouth almost curved. Elena stopped. The room waited. Then she answered in flawless Italian. Your first mistake was assuming I didn't understand you. Lucio's face emptied. Bianca went white. Dante did not move at all. Elena turned toward him. And yours was believing I only had value in your bed. His breath caught. The banquet returned to him in one brutal flash. His smirk. Bianca's laughter. She's nothing but a bed toy. Now she's useful because she carries my heir. Elena. I heard every word. The sentence was quiet. That made it worse. Dante's face changed. How long? Since the night you said it. No one in the hall looked at him now. Elena walked to the map table and opened the leather case Raphael carried. First came the altered Vulture Pass map. Then, the intercepted supply orders. Then the torn deployment command bearing Lucio's signature. Lucio scoffed. Circumstantial scraps gathered by a wounded wife. Elena looked at him. Then let's discuss something less circumstantial. She reached into the case. A small silver object landed against the map with a sharp metallic click. A wolf's head. 3 carved lines. Raphael straightened. 2 older commanders rose from their chairs. One whispered, White Wolf. Dante stared at the seal. His gaze moved slowly to Elena. No. She met his eyes. 6 years of anonymity ended in one breath. Yes. Dante looked almost physically struck. The Battle of Red Valley. The impossible retreat. The supply route that saved his southern army. The strategy he had praised for years. The strategist he had ordered his intelligence network to find. You wrote the Red Valley plans. Elena unfolded an original letter. I wrote all 7. A commander near the windows stepped forward. I served Red Valley. The cipher matches. Another nodded. So does the seal. Dante said nothing. Elena pointed toward Vulture Pass. Lucio copied my old false retreat markings and reversed one symbol. He wanted the army to believe this gorge remained passable. Lucio's composure finally cracked. You think symbols prove treason? No. Elena placed a second document beside the map. The supply convoy does. Raphael spoke for the first time. Troops bearing royal military issue were waiting at Hollow Ridge. Their orders redirected grain away from Dante's army. Elena added the council draft exposing the royal guardianship plan. And this proves what happened after the army failed. Bianca abruptly stood. I never approved that. Elena looked at her. No. You only knew about it. That is a lie. A wounded Eastwatch soldier was brought forward. His arm remained bandaged. He looked directly at Bianca. "I heard them use your name." Bianca's voice sharpened. He misunderstood Italian. Elena almost smiled. "How unfortunate for you that I don't." Several commanders shifted. Bianca turned toward Dante. "Tell them this is ridiculous." Dante looked at her. For the first time, there was no protection in his face. "Did you know Vulture Pass was compromised?" Bianca hesitated. "Only once." "It was enough." Lucio stepped forward. "Enough." His alpha authority rolled through the room. This king signed every deployment order. Dante stiffened. Lucio pointed at him. "You want a traitor? Look at the man whose seal authorized the march." The room erupted. Elena did not defend Dante. She waited until the noise fell. Lucio deceived him. Dante looked at her. For 1 second, relief appeared. Then Elena continued. But Dante chose arrogance, long before Lucio chose the map. The relief died. He excluded people who questioned him. He trusted people who flattered him. He treated my pregnancy as proof I should become silent. She rested one hand over her son. Lucio exploited the weakness. He did not create it. Dante lowered his eyes. Lucio suddenly reached for the map case. Raphael caught his wrist. Guards moved instantly. Lucio fought once before 3 commanders forced him to his knees. Bianca backed away. 2 council guards blocked her path. "No," she whispered. "Dante." He looked at her. She searched his face for the man who had once entered her bed. He was gone. "Take them," Dante said. Bianca screamed his name as the guards pulled her toward the doors. Lucio said nothing. His eyes remained fixed on Elena. The hall settled slowly. Dante approached her. There were dozens of witnesses. He seemed not to care. "I can fix this." Elena studied the man she had once intended to grow old beside. "No." His face tightened. "Elena, you can fix your army, your council, your kingdom." She placed the signed mate breach notice beside the White Wolf seal. "But you cannot fix my choice." Dante stared at the paper. Elena's voice remained steady. "Before this council, under Maternal Sanctuary Law and the mate breach statute, I formally request permanent severance after my son is safely born." For the first time in his reign, Alpha King Dante Romano had no command powerful enough to stop the woman walking away from him. Elena had saved his army, exposed his enemies, and protected his crown, then asked the entire kingdom to witness her decision to leave him. Bianca Ferretti lost everything before noon. The Allied tribunal did not need weeks to decide her fate. The intercepted orders, the Eastwatch testimony, and Lucio's own records were enough. Her rank was stripped first, then her voting rights. Then every Ferretti holding connected to the conspiracy was seized under wartime treason law. Bianca stood in the center of the tribunal chamber in the same crimson dress she had worn to war council, though now the color made her look less powerful than exposed. "This was never supposed to happen," she said. Elena watched from the witness gallery, one hand resting beneath her 7-month belly. Bianca turned toward Dante. "You knew what I wanted." Dante's face remained hard. "You wanted my crown. I wanted a future. You were willing to bury 10,000 soldiers for it." Bianca's mouth trembled. For one moment, Elena almost pitied her. Almost. Then Bianca looked at Elena, and hatred returned. "She took everything," Elena answered without raising her voice. "No. You gambled everything." The guards led Bianca away. Her family had already withdrawn recognition of her authority to protect the Ferretti name. She would leave Valamont without land, title, political protection, or the man she had helped betray. Lucio received no softer judgment. The man who had trained Dante, advised 3 generations of commanders, and hidden behind loyalty for decades, was stripped of military rank and sentenced for treason against the Allied Pax. Dante did not watch Lucio being taken away. He watched Elena. 3 days later, he found her in Ironhaven's western garden. Spring had begun pushing green through the last patches of snow. Elena sat beneath a stone arch, while Nora's strict orders kept her from spending too long on her feet. Dante stopped several yards away. He did not approach until Elena looked at him. "I came to apologize." "You already did." "I came to do it properly." She waited. Dante looked older than he had a month earlier. Not weaker, just stripped of the certainty that once followed him everywhere. "I betrayed you." Elena said nothing. "I humiliated you. I treated your pregnancy like it gave me the right to decide what you could handle." His jaw tightened. I let Bianca praise me because it was easier than hearing you challenge me. That was the first thing he had said that sounded completely honest. I loved being admired more than I respected being known. Elena looked down at her hands. Dante swallowed. I still love you. Her expression did not change. You may love me. His eyes lifted. You still chose to betray me. The words landed quietly. Dante moved one step closer. Is there any chance? Elena looked at him for a long time. Then she rested her hand over their son. You have a chance to become a good father. Hope flickered across his face. Do not confuse that with getting your wife back. The hope disappeared. Dante nodded once. It was the first boundary she gave him that he accepted without argument. 3 months later, Elena screamed his son into the world at dawn. Elias Hart Romano arrived furious, healthy, and loud enough to make Nora laugh. When the healer placed him against Elena's chest, every political title in Valamont became meaningless. Elena kissed the soft dark hair covering his head. Hello, Elias. Dante was permitted inside after Elena agreed. He stood beside the bed, visibly terrified to touch the tiny child. Elena adjusted the blanket. Support his neck. Dante obeyed. Elias opened gray eyes for less than a second before falling asleep against his father's chest. Dante's face broke. No alpha command. No throne. No pride. Just tears. Elena watched without bitterness. He could love their son. That did not require her to rebuild what he had destroyed. The permanent severance was finalized 6 weeks later. 1 year after the tribunal, the doors of Valamont's rebuilt war council opened. Elena entered carrying Elias on one hip. The room rose. Every commander, every council representative, Raphael Moreau, and Dante. No one stood because Elena was an Alpha King's mate. She was no longer one. They stood for Supreme War Chancellor Elena Hart, the strategist whose authority over military deployment had been written into Allied law after Vulture Pass. The white wolf seal rested at her place on the council table. Elias reached toward it. Elena caught his small hand before he could grab it. Not yet. Raphael, seated beside her, leaned back. You know, there are dinners where people don't discuss troop movements. Elena looked at him. Sounds suspicious. I'm told they're enjoyable. Whenever you're ready. Elena glanced toward Elias, who had begun chewing thoughtfully on the corner of a clean council document. Then she looked at Raphael again. Ask me when I've had 8 hours of sleep. Raphael smiled. Across the chamber, Dante heard the exchange. He lowered his eyes. There was pain in him. There would probably always be pain, but Elena no longer carried it for him. The council bell rang. She placed Elias safely with Nora, walked to her chair, and sat beneath the banner bearing the white wolf insignia. Dante remained standing until she did. The woman he had once called a bed toy now held a seat even the Alpha King could never take away from her. So this is where Elena's story closes. If you're still here with me, maybe there was something in her journey that felt familiar. Betrayal hurts enough on its own. But being betrayed by someone who also misunderstood your worth, that cuts deeper. Elena could have begged Dante to choose her. She could have used their son as leverage. She could have let anger make every decision for her. She didn't. She accepted one hard truth. She could not control Dante's loyalty, Bianca's ambition, or Lucio's betrayal. She could control what she did next. That was where her power came from. Walking away did not erase the pain. It simply stopped the pain from deciding her future. And maybe that is the part worth carrying with us. You do not need everyone to understand your value before you start protecting it. You do not need revenge to prove you were wronged. And you do not owe a second chance to someone just because they finally understand what they lost. If Elena's choice spoke to you, comment one word below. Dignity. And if you enjoyed this story, a like, a share, or a subscription would mean a lot. There are plenty more wolves making terrible decisions ahead. Dedict logo.